Alright guys, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia. So, last time we covered actually 2 days, which I think is a record here, but Mr. Ochi, the advisor, or whatever, he decided to go off into the forest or jungle or whatever, the unknown, and try and look for help. And I'm pessimistic. I don't think he's gonna find shit. If anything, he's gonna get lost, and he's gonna coincidentally find his way back to where they're hiding out. But that's what I'm thinking. So I could be wrong. Maybe he could actually find something, but I really doubt it for obvious reasons. But whatever. We're in the 10th day, which is pretty awesome. I think we're making great progress. I don't know how much more there is. Apparently another rainy day, which is probably not good. But I think we're making progress. And I think we're almost done with this. And I don't know that for sure. But the reason why I say it is because it's been 10 days that these guys have been out here. They have to be reaching limits of some sorts. And we've been seeing some signs of that. So I guess we'll see what happens here. So the 10th day in the valley.
また雨だ。もううんざり。雨が降ると途端に体がだるくなる。頭が重い。
Well, that's how I feel on a daily
テン
basis.
トの中にいても雨はどんどん染み込んでくるし、慢性化した湿気が原因なのか、苔だかカビだかの青臭いような匂いがますます濃くなってくる。ここ数日の雨の様子はほとんど梅雨の様相だ。今度の雨は相当にしつこい。当分やみそうもない。テントを叩く雨粒の音でなんとなくそうわかる。梢の隙間を伝って育った大きな雨粒がテントに当たる音は不規則で、ずっと聞いているとイライラしてくる。満たされない空腹もまたイライラの原因だ。
Yeah, that's gotta suck the most here. Just not having any food, and you guys, we all may not understand what true starvation is like, but it could probably be just a terrible pain, like unimaginable. It's like I've heard shit like your stomach starts to eat itself or shit like that, but I'm pretty sure it's just a bad time, man. It's something that we should never really have, or we would never really want to face. But I guess when circumstances like these come into play, there's really nothing you can do. So, fuck, dude. I'm at a loss for words. I mean, like, and I'm gonna be coming to a loss of words as they continue to go through situations like this. Like, I'm trying to commentate to the best of my ability, but it just sucks. It really does.
もはや口癖のように、ああお腹が空いたと私が口にすれば、最近の和樹は眉を寄せる。そんなこと言われなくても分かっているわと機嫌が悪くなるのだ。それでも私が空腹を訴え続ければ、最後にはうるせえ、寝ちまえとそんなことを言い出す。
ちょっと、私はそんなことを言った覚えはないわよ。
え？
私は動く必要のない時には眠るのも立派な仕事よと言っただけでしょ。
やだな、和樹。勝手に私の日記を読まないでよ。
I'm pretty sure Amane here was like she was talking while writing. I don't know how people can do this unconsciously, but I've never done that.
読んでないわよ。あなたが日記を書きながらそれを声に出して勝手に私に聞かせていたんでしょ。
I just don't understand. How can you unconsciously speak while you're writing? I guess I can understand people unconsciously speaking in general. I don't know. Fuck whatever I'm trying to say.
嘘。
自覚なし。重症ね。気をつけなさい、あまね。まるで一人でブツブツと文句を言いながら料理をするとんかつ屋の主人みたいで気持ち悪いわよ。
何それ。よくわかんないけど、人の顔を真剣に見つめてキモいとか言わんといてもらえる？へこむわ。
ほら、 私が捕まえたカタツムリをあげるから、これでも食べて元気を出しなさい。
That's gross, but I guess that's flattering.
もうでんでん虫飽きた。っていうか虫以外のものが食べたいよ。
カタツムリは陸外よ。まあ貝は虫じゃないのかと言われると微妙なのだけれど、それよりあまね。
Kazuki pointed to her cheek with one finger, as if to tell me I had a grain of rice stuck to the corner of my mouth. After a brief moment of confusion, I brought my hand up to my face. My fingers quickly found something slimy on my cheek. That is to say, a leech. Ooh. Leeches are terrible. I'd grown exceptionally tough-minded about this sort of thing. Another leech wasn't going to get a scream out of me this late in the game. Yes, but a bunch of them falling from the fucking sky would. Carefully peeling the creature off my cheek, I held it between the fingertips of both hands, dug my nails into its body, and ripped it apart. This was another lovely side effect of the rain. Leeches had begun to find their way inside our tent. After waking up, peeling the bloodsuckers off my body was becoming the first part of my daily routine. That is awful, alright? I'm somewhat of a neat freak, and so I don't know what that has to do with anything. I hate bugs. That's all I gotta say. I really hate bugs. I can't. Leeches are probably one of the worst things that I can come across. Well, probably not, but first and foremost, I had to peel them off my eyelid. Shit. That is... Oh my god. Next, the ones sticking to my neck, wrists, and ankles. The leeches seem to have a particular fondness for these points where the body grows narrow. Other than that, they'd also go for places where the skin was thin, the back of my knees and elbows, my armpits, my groin, nice. Well, not nice, but there were even a few that burrowed in between my toes, as if trying to make themselves a cozy little nest. The first few times this happened, we'd shriek hysterically when we woke, but after a few days, we'd lost the will to even moan. And neither of our bodies had developed a resistance to Hirooka, or we'd just gotten used to treating the bites, as the trickle of blood from the wounds would stop after only an hour or so. Kazuki speculated our growing sodium deficiency might be affecting the salinity of our blood, but there was no way to tell for sure. As the day crept into evening without a break in the rain, Kazuki and I headed to the large tent in order to visit Hirooka-san and Sakurai-senpai. Outside, I started the usual fire under the primitive stove, made the usual thin, watery weed soup, and boiled the usual bucket of hot water. With the gruel in my right hand and the hot water in my left, I made my way to the hospital tent. It was important to remember which was in which hand, since it was no longer obvious which was the water and which the gruel. Calling it gruel was a bit of a joke by this point. At a glance, it looked more like a stone soup. Even so, since we were mixing a bit of rice distributed to Kazuki and me, the wounded Sakurai and Hirooka were still eating slightly better than the rest of us.
お湯が沸いたよ。
ありがとう、あまね。そこの手ぬぐいを熱湯で消毒して、広岡さんの体を拭いてあげてくれる？
うん、任せて。
Kazuki didn't turn around when I entered the tent. She was steadily unwinding the yellow-stained bandages from Sakurai's stomach and removed the gauze from her wound to be replaced. We'd washed the gauze over and over in boiling water to the point where it was beginning to blacken. It made for all the more striking a contrast against the yellow pus, what am I even saying anymore, that permeated its surface. No matter how many times we carefully disinfected Sakurai's laceration, the suppuration wasn't showing any signs of stopping. If we weren't in this situation, it surely would have been difficult to treat. Or wouldn't have been difficult to treat. But given our unsanitary conditions and utter lack of medical supplies, maybe some knowledge, we simply couldn't stop the bacteria from multiplying. Above all else, the patient wasn't getting the nutrition her body needed to fight its way to recovery. When I reached out for the dirty gauze in order to sterilize it for reuse, I noticed something squirming on its surface. It was a maggot. Oh my god. No, that's... Oh my god. Dude, this is gross. Thrashing its fat little body madly from within the depths of the pus that had soaked into the gauze, It almost seemed to be consciously trying to crawl back towards Sakurai's stomach.
こっちはいいから広岡さんを。
Immersing the washcloth, a strip of cloth cut from an old t-shirt, in the hot water, I left it to soak and began to unbutton Hirooka-san's uniform. At first, she'd been quite embarrassed to be seen naked, but by now she submitted quietly without even squirming. She might simply have lost the energy necessary to feel shame. Hirooka-san's chest had withered dramatically since the first time I'd wiped her clean. Her ribs stood out distinctly against the surface of her skin, and that skin was mottled here and there with small white flecks. The small fuzzy little spots could be dusted off by hand. At first, I thought them to be something like cotton dust from her sleeping bag, but when I asked Kazuki, I learned for the first time that mold can grow on a living human body. Ah, dude, this is terrible. Hirooka-san was covered in pale white mildew. That's... oh my god.
ちょっと待ってね。今熱いタオルで拭いてあげるから。
私もう痛い。
Yeah, I do not follow.
何？なんて？
Hirooka-san, what am I even saying? Hirooka's dry, cracked lips were moving slightly. It sometimes says Hirooka-san, and other times it doesn't, alright? I get really confused. I lowered my ear to her mouth.
私
Oh.
死にたい。
Oh my god, dude.
大丈夫だよ。ちょっとカビが生えただけじゃん。
Scooping the washcloth out of the hot water with a pair of chopsticks, I waited for it to cool below scalding, then gave it a vigorous... I said that right the first time, what the hell? Squeeze.
体中がかゆいの。気が変になりそう。もう嫌。
我慢して。今きれいにしてあげるから。
I dropped the moderately hot towel against Hirooka-san's body and began to wipe. The mold came off cleanly, but underneath there were innumerable angry swollen red welts where fingernails had dug into her flesh.
書いちゃダメって言ったのに。
The more she scratched, the more she spread the mold across her body.
ごめんなさい。どうしても我慢できなくて。
Sometimes, like, the itchiness gets to the point of, like, actual pain. Like, it goes beyond just irritation and it's just straight out, like, pain. And sometimes, whenever you're in pain, you do whatever you gotta do. You don't care anymore. You go for it. You honestly do. Wide-scale, unrelenting itchiness is absolute torment. No matter how firmly you're told not to scratch, you'll unconsciously claw at your body while asleep. That is also true. I've had very bad rashes before. Like, all over my body. It wasn't this bad, obviously, but it's still something that's really hard to avoid. Hirooka-san's reflexive habit had grown to so extreme that we'd actually tried binding her hands to prevent this. That night, she had woken the entire camp screaming, oh my god. Writhing her body against her restraints, she had scraped her body against the hard ground, crying again and again for help.
ありがとう、スオさん。気持ちいい。
When I wiped her body clean, the itchiness would reduce at once. She described it as almost a blissful sensation. Even so, that comfort would last an hour or two at most. Once wrapped up in her sleeping bag, the itchiness would return as her body temperature began to rise. I was now making the time-consuming trip to wipe her clean many times a day.
ごめんね。面倒ばっかりかけて。本当にごめんなさい。私、きっともうすぐ死ぬから。それまではごめんね。
She done talking? Alright. So, though, I think this is where morality is going to come in again.
大丈夫だよ。 よ。そんなこと言っちゃダメだよ。体を拭いてあげるぐらいいつだってしてあげるから元気出してよ。
It's like, yes, she's definitely a burden. There's no way around that one. But I think everyone, in some way or another, is eventually going to become a burden to the group. But just killing them off is morally incorrect. So, or letting them die is morally wrong. If anything, it was bitterly sad to know there was nothing more I could do for her, no matter how hard I tried.
そうさん、私この恩は必ず返すから。
We won't hold you to it.
そうして。そのためには絶対に生き残らないとね。
私死んでも絶対にこの恩を忘れないよ。
As she spoke, tears began to run in little streams down Hirooka-san's face.
だからそういうこと言わないの。大丈夫、死なないから。
Wiping a tear from Hirooka-san's cheek with the tip of my finger, I reflexively brought it to my mouth. What? Hirooka-san's tears were still salty. Oh, we need the sodium. I was slightly envious of that. I think that's the end of that day. Man, things are getting absolutely terrible. Well, of course they're terrible now, but they're getting so much worse. The 11th day in the valley. It's apparently still raining. It was still raining. Exactly. It had never stopped raining. There was nothing to do but sit around shivering and wait for the weather to clear. Doing nothing all day took a surprisingly heavy toll in its own right. After 10 minutes or so of aimless idleness, you'd be seized by an anxious, impatient need to do something, anything. But it was impossible to step outside even briefly without being drenched in the downpour. The cold rain would drain your energy with terrifying swiftness, and once you got wet, you stayed that way. We knew it was dangerous to stay in soaked clothes, but we just didn't have the means to get them dry. The constant seeping rainwater had begun to corrode the thin material that made up the bottom of our tent. Lying down, even with the buffer of our sleeping mat, would leave our whole bodies soaping wet. We had no choice but to sit and wait. In the afternoon, the rain slowed to a heavy drizzle. I had just managed to get a cooking fire going when an eerie sound began to echo across the camp. Someone was singing loudly. It was unmistakably Ibuki's voice.
ついに行かれたか?
Kaneda laughed harshly, an ugly contorted excuse for a smile on her face.
うるせえぞ! Ibuki!
In an attempt to end the mournful, grimace-inducing dirge, Kaneda-senpai hurled a rock in Ibuki's direction. The stone fell a few feet short, and Ibuki turned in our direction to examine it. Her face was ghastly white, her skin dull. It looked as though she had aged 20 years in the last few days. Picking up the muddy stone, Ibuki pressed it to her nose and sniffed curiously. Apparently deciding it wasn't food, she tossed it casually aside and continued her song. When the world grows warped around you, those who can't bend simply break. But watching Ibuki caterwauling idly up at the rain-cloud-filled sky as if to summon the sun, I wondered if derangement might sometimes be a blessing rather than a curse.
なんなんだろうね、あれ。たまにああやっておかしくなるけど、しばらくすると普通に会話できるし、いつものブッキーに戻ってるんだよね。
需要不足らしいですよ。
いつかは私らもあんな風になるのかね。
Oh, I hope to God not.
金田先輩、ここへ来る前、ダイエットとかしてました？
あにゃ？
じゃあ、大丈夫じゃないですか？
From what Kazuki had told me, Ibuki had been repeatedly subjecting herself to severe, gimmicky diets over the last few months, leaving her with chronic vitamin deficiencies. Since arriving here, that pre-existing condition had apparently worsened the effects of malnutrition on her body, giving rise to impaired brain function.
参っちゃうよね。うちの子守ももうだいぶやばい感じだよ。
Komori was still shut up in her tent, nursing her dog through a high fever. Apparently she was feeding every scrap of her rations to the animal.
あいつの家和菓子屋じゃん。親は二人とも仕事で忙しくてめったに構ってもらえなかったみたいでさ。兄弟もいないあいつには犬が兄弟なんだよね。まあ、わかるけどさ。
That reminds me of a story from this same game. Well, somewhat. Even as Kanade spoke those carefully neutral words, her mouth was twisted with undisguised loathing. Her true feelings were written on her face. She unambiguously hated that feverish, immobile little dog. It was of no use to her, and so she wanted it to disappear. It was as simple as that.
みんなどんどん弱ってく。このまま私らみんな死ぬんだ。
It sucks because she's actually speaking the truth. I understood from the tone of her voice that this wasn't more of the usual gallows humor. I understood with such painful clarity that I wish she'd said nothing at all. Glancing up at the sky as the rain began to intensify yet again, I slowly picked up off my seat of rock. I can't take this. Couldn't we at least catch a break on this rain? It was adding insult to injury. Knowing full well that it was ridiculous, I did my best whiny preschooler impression and asked Kazuki to make the rain stop.
だから私は神様じゃないのよ。
Unfortunately.
似たようなもんでしょ。
Everyone called Kazuki a witch. Well, except for the ones who called her a monster. In that case, a little rain magic shouldn't be too much to ask for, right? I mean, I knew it was idiotic, but asking is free. And wait, alright. And in response to my challenge, Kazuki closed both eyes and exhaled heavily through her nose, as if to say, "Oh, very well then," and lifting both arms towards the sky, she spoke to the heavens. To wit, "O rain, I command you to bego," an exceptionally half-hearted command that dissolved into an open-mouthed yawn at the end. I appreciated that she was considerate enough to play along with my nonsense, but if she was going to bother, couldn't she have at least pretended she was taking it seriously? But, well, as it turned out, an hour or so after that, maybe the rain really did come to a sudden stop. You had to laugh. Kazuki craned her neck back, idly gazing up as the clouds flowed peacefully by.
何でも試してみるものね。
Yeah, but they usually don't say it in cases like these. And spoke characteristically impudent words in her characteristically sleepy voice. Staring at her face from the side, I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The witch theory was seeming increasingly plausible. Not that on reflection I really cared if she was some sort of black magician. It'd be nice to have one on our side right about now. If I ask her to spirit everyone to safety for her next trick, I wonder what happened. Asking's free after all. I looked over at Kazuki, debating whether to throw this new challenge at her. But before I could decide, she stared up into my eyes and spoke.
全員は無理。そう言ったはずよ。
だから私が質問する前に答えを先に言うのはマナー違反だよ。
あなたは考えていることがすぐに顔に出るから分かりやすいのよね。
It can't be everyone. Her tone of voice was surprisingly breezy, but somehow also exceptionally firm, as if the outcome was set in stone, as if she was merely repeating an established fact. Kazuki's internal calculations must have established something very close to a 100% possibility that more of us would die in this place. I repeatedly asked her about the details of her predictions, receiving only variations of the frustrating non-answer if I told you the future I've predicted would change. When I finally told her that changing this future sounded like a pretty good idea to me, she coolly replied even if it would mean none of us survive at all. And I found myself at an utter loss for words. Well, maybe not utter. There was still one old reliable that came to my mind.
で
Yeah, I don't know what the conversation is here. Don't look at me like that. Perfectly aware that I'm an idiot, You don't have to rub it in. Even now, Kazuki said the possibility of everyone surviving wasn't quite zero. By believing in those words, I could hold on to hope. If I had hope, I could find the strength to go on. Yeah, that's right. I have to be stronger than this. But it was hard. It was very hard. A full 2 days had passed since Mr. Ochi left the camp, and as always, there were no signs of rescuers active nearby. Naturally, our teacher hadn't returned either. Is Mr. Ochi lying dead in a ditch somewhere? Maybe he's gotten to some safe place and just abandoned us here? What do we do if he never comes back? Amid a flurry of aimless speculation, we passed the days waiting for help to arrive. They didn't come today, but they'll definitely come tomorrow. They didn't come today either, but they'll probably come tomorrow. Mr. Ochi said he'd get help no matter what when he left here. Not even half the group really believed it. But even so, somewhere deep down, every one of us was clinging to that glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he'd save us all. That maybe grew feebler by the day, eroded by cruel reality, even as we came to understand that waiting would only bring us a slow death. We clung to that shred of hope, piling speculation upon speculation. We built excuses out of sand. We convinced ourselves it was too early to decide. We stayed where we were, and we waited for nothing. Trapped in oblivious lethargy, we lived for nothing but to avoid death. When our stomachs growled, we chewed on blades of grass and insects. When our throats were parched, we gulped from the first puddle of dirty water we saw. Naturally, it wasn't long before our stomachs turned violently against us. Somebody said chewing bamboo charcoal might be effective against diarrhea. Within hours, everyone's mouth was stained black. We searched and searched for anything edible. As long as it was organic and digestible, we ate it. Anything and everything. The rest of our time was spent lying in our sleeping bags, stroking our cramping, weak stomachs as we pretended to sleep. If we were lucky enough to fall unconscious, there was a brief respite from the pain. Wow. Things are really getting shitty. So we'll end it here since we're pretty much out of time. We're on the 12th day, so we got another 2 days done. Nice. I think these days were a little shorter than the last two, so even better. So I guess next time we'll do the 12th day and maybe anything after that. I don't know, but like I said, I think we're coming to the end of this story. I mean, things are getting really shitty. I'm pretty sure the rations are gone at this point because they're kind of just looking for anything at this point to just eat. So people are going to start, I would say, going crazy. And then I think eventually we're going to see people kicking the bucket. And I mean, it's kind of obvious at this point. It's really leading us into that point. And I just, it's going to hurt, dude. This is what I've been fearing. The pain of others, of fictional people. It's terrible. But we'll leave it here today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys next time.